Hello everyone, it's Damien Maguire here from the Faculty of Education and Social Sciences. I'm going to run through some practical applications of artificial intelligence which have proven to be incredibly useful to us as a faculty, to our students and to our staff teams over the last year. We're going to look at some of the guidance from the university in relation to using AI in assessment writing in particular, when to use it, when not to use it, but also applications that we can use that allow us to speed up our search for literature, and also using artificial intelligence as a 24/7, 365 tutor that allows us to interact in a completely different way than with our documentation than perhaps we've done before, and with that key literature. Okay, so here is our guidance model in relation to when you can and cannot, or when you should and should not use AI to support your studies here at Liverpool Hope University. So the first example we're looking at here is to identify the question and topic. So when your tutor or your lecturer gives you your question, you can use artificial intelligence to interact with that question. So put it into artificial intelligence and start having that conversation about the topic to outline the areas that topic will be covering. The next area that we're going to look at is identifying key models and theorists. So, for example, if you're working in education, you might be looking at the work of Vygotsky or Dweck or Brunner, but you can ask the AI, who are the leading thinkers at the moment in this particular area in relation to this particular question. The next step then is to use an artificial intelligence tool such as Utilising, which is a 300 million repository of peer-reviewed academic papers, and then using connected papers and lit maps, which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment how those actually work. You can use AI to outline and plan your resource or your assignment, what it is you're actually working on, how many words should be in each section, those type of things it's really useful for. Obviously making sure that you follow your tutor and lecturer's guidance in that as well. And then using the large language model or the AI or the chatbot, which are all relatively the same thing, discuss the key points with it as if it was your tutor. So asking it, if I was to write about this, would that be a sensible approach to take, and interact with the artificial intelligence in that regard. Okay. What we can see then is that when you have done this pre-work and that support to gather your resources together to write your assignment, absolutely use artificial intelligence to support that learning, and ultimately to speed up that learning as well. But it should allow you to go into much greater depth than perhaps you would have done previously, because of the time that you've now got and the speed that you are able to work with whilst augmenting your learning with the artificial intelligence. What we say as a university then is that when you sit down to actually write your assignment, that is your authentic writing stage. So do not use artificial intelligence at that point. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear your thoughts and how you synthesize the literature together and how you come up with those particular pathways. We want to see what you have learned based on the initial stage. When you're reviewing and editing your assignment, again, this is something that you should not be using artificial intelligence for. This should be your own authentic work. And then finalizing your assignment and submitting your assignment, that should be your own authentic work and not driven by an artificial intelligence to support that. Okay, so hopefully that clears up what you can and cannot and should not do to avoid academic malpractice when you are writing your assignments here at Liverpool Hope University. The next website that we're going to look at is going to focus on this area, which is the finding research. This is something that is a challenge for students often. What research should I read? What research shouldn't I read? Etc., etc. And that can spend a lot of time, or it can take up a lot of your time in looking at literature and perhaps getting frustrated that literature isn't linked to the topic that you are studying. So LitMaps is an AI tool that supports you with this. So if you go to LitMaps via Google, and say, for example, I've just typed in the work here of Carol Dweck within education, but this could be anybody from any of your reading lists, or it could additionally be any questions that you've particularly got, or you can look for themes in there. So it could be, say, behavior management, if we were looking at something from an educational point of view, but you can really make it specific to the area that you are studying. So when you have either logged in via a free account, or you are utilizing this just on a trial basis, you'll be able to write in Carol Dweck 2019. And what that will do is it will go off and it will find the main papers that Carol Dweck has been involved with, but not only the papers that Carol Dweck has been involved with, also the other writers in the area where she is working. So what we're looking for here, as you'll see, we've got 88 references and we have got 837 citations. That means that 837 times the Carol Dweck's paper, Mindsets, A View from Two Eras, has been used by other academics. So that's given that paper some significant weight in this area of study. So we're going to choose that paper. If, for example, we've got down here, we've got Growth Mindset written by Westby in 2020, it's only got 7 citations. So it will not create links with the other literature as well as something with larger citations. So we're looking for that paper that has got a large number of citations. Okay. Now I've clicked on this, it will give me a brief overview of the, or summary of the paper and what's involved. This is a huge time saver because it allows you to understand whether you should continue reading this paper, utilizing this paper, or whether it's not relevant to what you're looking for. The next button I can press is the Explore Related Articles. And what this will do now is this will create and generate the literature map for me based on the paper that Carol Dweck has written and all of those citations. So the artificial intelligence is going out there and finding all of the relevant papers in this area and linking those together. So immediately what I've done here is I've built a map of the other academic writers that I should be referencing in my assignment and looking towards for thinking in this particular area. Now, the really useful part is that this graph actually has these scales. So more recently published research is more to the right-hand side of the map, and the paper with more citations, or that meaning the paper that has more weight within that particular area, are closer towards the top. So what that means is that effectively you could read the work of Dweck, okay, knowing that the work of Yeager that was written the year after Dweck's work is probably referring and building upon Dweck's work. Okay, so reading both papers, that allows you to critically evaluate those two papers against each other, but also it allows you to perhaps see how this area of study and this area of development has built. Okay, has built forward, how that area of research has developed when we go into the work of somebody like Perez in 2023, who's looking at the effect of a mastery learning course on Raphael's mindset. Okay, so what we can do here, we can see that there's a small cluster of papers here. So those academics might be working quite closely and also discussing some very similar ideas. Why is that useful? It's incredibly useful because when you are putting your assignments together, we ask you to do two things. The first thing we ask you to do is critically evaluate research. So therefore you could compare what Weiner has said in 1970, okay, and how Dweck moved that argument forward between 1970 and 2019. What are the real differences between those two authors and researchers' approaches to what they are discussing in their papers? That's the first thing you could look at. The next idea you could do is you could clump some of these papers together in a group and maybe look at the research from 2006, 2018, 2017, 2019. That would be synthesizing of the research, and that means that in our marking matrices, we are often looking for synthesizing of research or synthesis of research, which allows us to give higher marks because you've taken ideas from a number of researchers and spotted the key themes from those researchers. Or the next thing that you might do is you might clump together some of the more recent research. So from Perez in 2023, Murphy and Rigaud in 2025. And what are these researchers discussing that Dweck was not covering in 2019? And discuss those. So you're synthesizing their ideas together and perhaps critically evaluating them against the work of Dweck in 2019. When we look at other papers, obviously this map was created from the work of Dweck. If you go and you look at a different academic paper in a different area, it will give you a completely different literature map for you to look and study and to develop your ideas around. So it's a huge time saver in terms of looking at those papers and how they're linked together and giving you a scope of perhaps the field of research that particular researcher and writer was working in and is still considered to be a part of. The next area that we're going to look at is when you have got those papers and you can download them and create PDFs from those papers. The next AI tool that I would recommend you having a look at is called Google Notebook LM. So this is as simple as doing a Google search. This is a relatively new product from Google, so it is not yet available on the menus over here from Google, so you do have to do a Google search to access Google Notebook LM. Okay. And when we do that, we can click on Try Notebook LM. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new notebook. Okay. Now this is as simple as just uploading an attachment to an email, or we can also add different types of media. So here we can add anything from Google Docs. We can add any of our Google slides that we have access to. We can also link websites directly, so we can paste URLs in from complete websites. As well, so it might be something that you're putting in from the Department of Education or from a national organisation that you're looking at. It might be a website from a particular company that you're looking at, or a newspaper website, and the machine or the Notebook LM will go through and analyse the text and the images which are on that website. Okay, the other sources that we can add are YouTube videos. We can add those and it will summarize and allow you to interact and have a conversation, which we will investigate in a moment, and also copied text. Okay, so any PDFs or anything that can just be added by choosing file. And if I upload Artificial Intelligence in Education, Fears and Faiths.pdf, it will give me an overview of that particular paper and summarize basically what is in that paper. What's really useful for this particular tool is that we can also add up to 50 different sources. So say, for example, we go to YouTube over here and I click on YouTube. Okay. And here we have a TED Talk, The Impact of AI to Literature. What we can do is we can click on this, okay, and then I can just pause the video and I can capture the URL of that video. Going back to Notebook LM, I can click on YouTube and I can post the URL in, like so. So without me even watching the video from YouTube, it will start to analyze that video and allow me to interact with the content from that video. I can ask questions about it. So I can ask, what are the main points from the video impact of AI to literature. Okay, and then I can ask it that and it will analyze it. Now, because it's having to go and look through an entire video, it's actually going to take a few seconds for that to work. But what it does here in the chat is that it looks at it looks at giving us a particular breakdown of the video. But what's really useful about Google Notebook LM is that it also references whereabouts in the video that actually took place. Okay, so if I click on these references, it brings me to exactly where those words were spoken from a transcript from the video. Okay, if I decide to go back to sources like so, and I look at artificial intelligence in education, and I click on that, it will give me an abstract, kind of a guide to the source literature. Okay, and then I can ask these questions here. For example, how do Moroccans view AI? Then if I jump to the bottom, it will start to give me an overview of what the awareness levels are, the demographic differences, defining AI, but really importantly, because of the agentic abilities of these systems, it is actually telling me whereabouts these particular views and opinions are coming from based on the source material. So it's actually looking at the source material and taking out what is useful from it. Okay, the next thing that you can do that's really useful with Google Notebook LM is that you can create an audio overview. So what I would suggest using, and how I would suggest using this, is when you get your reading list, to download your reading list as PDFs, add it to Google Notebook LM over here in the sources, and then what you have got in the chat area is a tutor who you can interact with back and forward, ask some questions, find out more about what are the main key points in your area of study, what are the which directions are research traveling in that, who are the key thinkers in your particular area, etc., etc. What you can then do is you can, in the studio, you can click audio overview. This takes a few minutes to do, but what it does is it creates a podcast talking about the ideas and the key ideas which are coming from the chat that you have had and also the sources that you have created. Okay. You can also create mind maps. You can create reports, including study guides, which is incredibly valuable for you to be able to do. So imagine uploading your entire reading list to a notebook, Google Notebook LM, and then clicking on reports, and you can get a study guide which will break down the most rational way of actually looking through the different themes that exist within your area of study. And then also you can create mind maps, flashcards, etc., etc. Okay, this only takes a few minutes to create your audio overview, and it is based upon the sources that you have uploaded. And how this is actually working is that Notebook LM is using Google Gemini, but it is allowing you to upload your sources and your source material first. So effectively you've got Google Notebook LM, you've got your sources, and behind all of those things you've got Google Gemini, which is allowing the kind of compute AI power for you to interact in the same way as perhaps you've maybe interacted with ChatGPT in the past. So this is going to conclude this relatively short video on how to use some of these useful AI tools and give them real practical applications to support your studies. If you do have any questions regarding this, please get back in contact with your tutors, and I hope to see you around campus very soon, where I'd be more than happy to talk with you more about these particular topics and also technologies involved in creating them. Thanks very much.